But I feel like when it comes to investing, people also don't understand that luck and also sometimes timing can be right. For example, I read somewhere recently that someone invested their life savings worth into Tesla at the start of last year, 2020. And Tesla had a stock increase of 698% last year alone. Tesla increased by 698% in one bloody year. Now, someone who had invested their life savings, they became a millionaire because of that. But that's something that nobody can really know. Yes, you're lucky if you're lucky, or if you can price that kind of thing, to invest into Tesla at that particular time. But 700% increase in 1 year, it's colossal. And to be honest, Tesla is now worth more than 5 or 6 major car companies around the globe combined. That includes your German auto manufacturers, a couple of Italians, and few of the Japanese, Honda and Toyota. So I don't really understand. Those companies have been in existence for more than 150 years. And here we have Tesla that makes electric cars, 4 models, and suddenly that stock valuation and the market capitalization of that firm is so high. So I do anticipate a bubble in the stock of Tesla, that particular stock, Tesla itself. And it's something that I myself am not a big fan of Tesla. I've always maintained that in my videos as well. I'm not a big fan of Tesla cars and Elon Musk as well. So it's not something that I invest in because I don't really like the whole concept of the electric car. There's nothing I feel like of a Tesla that cannot be copied by the Chinese giants. So what are your views on that? Because, we live in Shanghai. I'm not in Shanghai at the moment, but I used to live in Shanghai, and taking the DDs all the time, they were all electric cars owned by Chinese auto manufacturers. So we have your Huaweis, we had your BYDs, and those cars are perfect for day-to-day use. So unless you want to go and buy a Tesla, if you happen to have $1 million RMB spare, there's nothing that Tesla offers in terms of technology that the other Chinese giants, including NIO as well, which doesn't offer.
I think what actually Tesla got right is basically the branding.
Mm-hmm.
And they got right that, as soon as you think about electric vehicles, the first thing you think is Tesla.
Yes.
And this in the Chinese market that is already very oriented to the electric vehicle. Also, you have a very developed infrastructure that let you use your electric car on a daily basis without any issues. Thing that, for example, in Europe is still not as developed as in here. So you already this is first pegged in a way to the Chinese market, which already has this infrastructure well established. Second, Tesla, as I was saying, got the branding right. Mm-hmm. And now, for a Chinese successful businessman that wants to show his mianzi, right, the face.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care that you can get the same value in technology with BYD or NIO, but in this case you prefer to get a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the same like for German cars and Italian cars. What the Germans got right first, of course, is their technology, which is great. But together with this, they got the branding right. They positioned themselves early and in the right way in the Chinese market. I think that the Italian brands completely failed in doing that. So even though, for example, let's say like an Alfa Romeo can be as good as a BMW. Now, I'm not even sure this can be totally true. I'm not exactly an expert in this. But eventually, if you are a Chinese person, like well off, and you want to get a car, first you'll go towards the German brands.
Yes.
And this is something that is extremely hard to recover. And exactly this is what Tesla got right, the branding and the timing. We need to see what will happen in the markets outside China, as also they recover from the pandemic, and hopefully they will use the funds to rebuild the economy, also to establish the infrastructure for electric vehicles, and to basically like develop all of this supply chain, so that I can get my Tesla or something else in Italy, and I can use it comfortably every day without being worried that the battery will end, and that I can't go back home. So hopefully after the pandemic we can see a development also on this side.
I agree. And now that you mentioned cars, I would say the Italian brands did indeed fail in China, and the marketing and the timing. I guess the timing was right, maybe the marketing wasn't. Couple of cars that are mainly sold in China are the Maserati Levante, the SUV, and then their Quattroporte, the saloon car. And the reason why there are more sales of those cars as compared to other Italian brands is because they're luxury brands. So when it comes to Alfa Romeo, it's not necessarily a luxury brand, and that's why it's very difficult to compete in a market like China or India, because people rather go and buy a BMW or a Mercedes or an Audi. And Alfa Romeo, even though it's a nice car, it just has failed in many markets, not just necessarily China. It has failed in many markets. So clearly there is something with our company when it comes to marketing or branding, where they're not being able to integrate into other markets outside of Italy. Even in the UK, we don't necessarily use a lot of Alfa Romeos. It is a nice car, but at the end of the day, it's not something that is sold a lot, because people in the UK, they prefer the German trio. Then let's talk about Tesla entering India as well. It's going to enter sometime first quarter of this year, so maybe by February, March, it's going to enter India as well. The only problem is the luxury tax in India is so much compared to China that Tesla Model S, which is $80,000 back in the US, is going to cost roughly $200,000 equivalent in India. Now, people who have that kind of money in India to buy a car for that, of course, you're talking with the elite class. So those kind of people, they don't necessarily care for the price. They just want the status symbol, as you said, the millions in China. So Indians also have this like prestige problem where they feel like they want to buy a car just for show off. So people who buy Teslas in India will be more of a style statement, a luxury factor, more like a show off kind of a gadget rather than a use. But from a fundamental point of view, my point was that, there's nothing in these kind of cars that cannot be copied by the Chinese giants. And when it comes to cars, I feel like the Chinese are offering better value for money. So you have your Chinese electric cars. If they will be launched one day in the future into different markets, for example, there's a company called Sasgar Group, which is basically a Pakistani company. So they have collaborated with BAIC, which is Beijing Automotive Corporation Limited, Industrial Corporation Limited, and they will be doing the merger with Sasgar in Pakistan, and they're launching 4 new cars sometime middle of this year in Pakistan. Now, those cars are priced accordingly to the Pakistani market, according to the purchasing power of the Pakistani market, target market. So we have Chinese companies, Chinese cars entering emerging markets. And then we have Tesla entering a luxury market as well, because India is a huge luxury market. Many people do say that really Indians buy a lot of luxury cars. You'd be amazed at how many luxury cars you'll see in the streets of Bangalore, Chennai, or most of South India, where you have a lot of tech companies, a lot of tech owners buying luxury cars. So going forward, I'm not so comfortable when it comes to like Tesla, the fact that like stock price is the valuation is so much. I'm just not sure as to whether it will be able to maintain that valuation going forward, because when it comes to the revenues and then their sales figures and everything, it's not as much. The share price doesn't necessarily reflect the revenues. And from a fundamental point of view, when it comes to value investing, I just don't understand how can Tesla's share price be justified when they're not selling as many units, but then their share price is and it has become the largest capitalized company in the world, automotive company in the world.
Yes, again, this is the same thing as we were saying before. At the moment, everyone believes that they still have margin to grow, and so they keep investing in that. When at some point there will be some news saying that they are, that their growth is becoming slower, then at that point there will be a reaction where things will go back to normal in some ways. This is something.
Yes.
Yes, this is something that it's common for everything. Also, for Facebook or the other tech giants. In some moments, you have these spikes that are even superior to their revenues and to what they actually are worth. But eventually, in a way, the markets regulate itself. So it is what it is. If we can say in this way.
I agree. I understand. Any other news that you read? So, for example, I've been reading about Huawei. It's expected to drop to 7th globally in smartphone production because the sanctions from USA and then whatever happened in the past with the CFO and everything. Huawei is a company that has suffered greatly globally after the sanction, after the trade war, and after the arrest of the CFO. And personally, I do feel bad for Huawei. It is one of those companies that came out of nowhere basically and was able to compete with Samsung and Apple when it comes to smartphones. But in a way, the practices that Huawei, let's say, utilized, they were not necessarily fair to the open market as well in China or something. And then, again, it's like I would sit on the fence, but it's very hard to tell this, to give an opinion like whether whatever happened with Huawei is correct or not. It's just one of those that Huawei has suffered so much in the last 2 years that will it be able to recover from that going forward? I personally don't think so. When it comes to domestic market, yes, Huawei is number one in China. As in Indonesia, I was in a mall last week and I went to a Huawei store. Would you believe Huawei, because of the sanctions, Google doesn't provide services to Huawei. So there's no Google Play Store. Now, bear in mind, this is not China, we're talking about Indonesia, so Google isn't necessarily banned here in Indonesia. So the fact that Google is not offering its services on an Android phone, Huawei being an Android phone, what exactly is happening here, And because of which the sales have suffered drastically. Therefore, the revenues have suffered, and therefore the production has to be cut because there's not that many people buying the phone. Do you see Huawei recovering from this? I personally don't think so.
Honestly, it's very hard to say. But there are also some lights in a way. For example, it was signed the agreement with the German government that Huawei can provide 5G technology in Germany, despite all the pressures of all the efforts of the US administration around Europe. We'll see now with the incoming Biden administration if something will change, and if like things will go back to normal in some way. But in this case, is one of those things that has so many factors in its development that this is quite hard to assess eventually. We just need to wait and see. And again, in this case, diversify if you want to invest on that, so that if one goes down, the other goes up.
Of course.
And, it's eventually we go back to that in any case.
Indeed. Okay. Then I was reading about the startup funding. So, Mauro, many of the startups are growing so fast in China and India that funding is available. What is your take on that? Do you feel that funding is available in China easily for startups, or would you recommend a different market? Personally, I feel like there's plenty of funding available in India, in China itself, because of the tight capital controls, the money not being able to go out of China. A lot of domestic Chinese investors are willing to invest in foreign-owned startups and also local startups within mainland China. And also Indonesia is a huge market for that, so is India. So I'm just reading now that there's an investment app, Bibit, in Indonesia that just confirmed a $30 million funding from Xuhui Capital. It's a securities company in India. So Indians are investing heavily in Indonesia. Chinese are they were investing heavily before Prime Minister Modi stopped that funding, stopped that investment, stopped the whole procedure because of Chinese been owning a lot of Indian companies, domestic companies. So they were taking control, you can say, as such. So what is your take on that?
Well, the thing here is that China is, in a way, the leading market in this post-pandemic, even though in many parts of the world is still not a post, but we are still in the middle of the pandemic. So this is something that has an impact. And here, of course, like first you have the chance to work maybe more effectively if provided that you are already in the mainland. About the funding outside, this also comes from the trade war, since before there was a heavy investment of Chinese investors in the US, and then some of these funds decided to shut down some of their operations and diversify to other markets. So in this case, it's also can also be seen as some good news, since you can give some chances also to other areas of the world, and basically see what anyone else is willing and able to do. The thing is, we just need to wait for the whole world to come out from this
pandemic. Yeah, of course, it will take time, but Mauro, I feel like going forward, as it's been a year of all this nonsense, like the pandemic, the lockdowns, the fact that we were waiting for a vaccine, the fact that now the vaccine is out, and the fact that now we need 2 jabs instead of 1, so you need 2 doses to get a proper vaccination. It's just a drag, not just on the financial markets, not just on people, overall the confidence of humanity, because people are just so annoyed now. Okay, China has recovered. Okay, Shanghai is safe. When I was in Shanghai, there was a time when me and you would walk along the streets of Shanghai without a mask, We'd only wear a mask in the metro because it was mandatory to do so. But outside of the world, people are still suffering. not necessarily from the COVID itself, the disease itself, the virus itself. They're suffering from the emotional trauma that they have experienced, even in India as well, like 6 months of lockdowns, it's just too much on people. Like in poorer countries such as India, Pakistan, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, there's a lot of people who are daily wage earners. They work, they earn, they eat. They work, they earn, eat, repeat the cycle for the next day. So the whole pandemic has been such a drag on those people. I do feel for those people. And, as much as like we want the pandemic to be behind us, of course, as soon as possible, but we have to look forward, and going forward, we have to focus on business. And even to this day, a lot of people say I've suffered so much from pandemic, but yes, of course, everybody has. But we have to let that go past us, and we have to start focusing from start, how to build ourselves. If the tech giants were able to do so, of course, they have more capital, they have more resources. Why can they not do a proportion of what they're doing and try to recover ourselves as well? Which I believe, like, your business, my business, we have been doing since the pandemic started and everything, because we cannot just blame it on the pandemic. You cannot blame your actions on a once in a century kind of a pandemic. Nobody can time this, nobody can anticipate this.
Yeah, indeed, it's it's like you have a kind of a bad set of cards, but you still need to play the game and try to make the best out of it. And now, as we were saying, even though you are not in one area, you can still through technology you can still contact people and even expand your business, try to diversify not only your market portfolio but also your activities in markets that now are recovering. And basically this is what we do and what we help to do. If you want to enter the Chinese market, get some relationship to buyers or to sellers, you can still do that. It's not the Spanish flu word where you are in the place like in the place where you live and you can't really go around that easily. But again, I appreciate that this is not easy and for everyone to do.
Of course.
But in this case, at least we have had a year through this, and at some point, if you want to make a plan for this, that can be an idea, at least to explore it. Then you can decide if you want to do it or if you want to do it or not. Technology gives us many chances of growth in many ways. Now, since we were talking about this before the call, actually in a couple of weeks I will have one of my clients to deliver a speech through Zoom, while the audience will be gathered in person in my office, in our office in Shanghai.
Yeah.
So this my client is not physically in Shanghai, but he has a very interesting knowledge, very interesting product in a way, and if you want to benefit from it, there is no physical barrier in this case. By the way, we will leave this in the comments if someone wants to sign up that you are in Shanghai or not.
Of course. And it's an event that I'm also looking forward to, that seminar. So I've signed up yesterday myself, and it's something that I'm looking forward to as well. So it should be a great event, and it's on the 20th of January, which is next week, from 4 to 6 p.m. Shanghai time, which is GMT plus 8. So if anybody wants to take note, and I believe your client is speaking from the UK. He will be in the UK. So yeah, if anybody wants to sign up, Mauro, I'll actually, if you want, I'll put up the code as well, the Alipay code. So if they want to register, sign up for that. And I'll also put in the poster as well if I can. Otherwise, I'll just put a screenshot of the poster on the video itself, so people can just have a look at that. Definitely, it's something that people should be considering, that even though we're amidst a pandemic currently, but there are still opportunities available. There are still businesses that are still being born. There's still businesses being incorporated. So there is a huge opportunity. There are lots of potential opportunities available for everybody if they want to start off. Bear in mind that Uber itself started off at the start of the recession back in 2008. So did many other companies. I believe Snapchat was also one of them. So if the companies which are able to navigate rough waters, anything that after that is just smooth sail for them. All right, Mauro, I believe that's quite a lot for today's conversation. It was something that was, very interesting that we spoke about, just like a general talk and everything. And it is something, viewers, which we'll be doing on a regular basis. Myself and Mauro will try to do it once a week, where we'll just be speaking about the issues, the financial issues, the political issues happening around the globe. And yeah, if you have any questions, viewers, then just feel free to comment in the comment section below, or just write to me or Mauro on our social media handles. All right, Mauro, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for inviting me, and see you next week.
See you next week. All right, Mauro.